Good morning, everyone. Welcome to those who are joining us. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes while we wait for people to join. We will be admitting them. I can see the numbers flying up. So we're up to 19 already, Michelle. So good morning to Michelle, who's with me today. Hello, how are you?
I'm feeling okay. A little bit daunted for a webinar interview, but all good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. The sun is shining, or trying to. Spring has sprung, it feels like, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Things,
it does.
things,
In
things
lots
are
of
looking
ways.
better. Yeah, things are feeling a bit better, aren't they?
Yeah.
So we'll just give it a couple more minutes to let people join, and then we will get going. It's Wednesday, it's hump day, we're getting there. It's all good. Gin's on the horizon, Michelle.
Gin is always on the horizon, Becky.
We're okay.
I'm starting to get a bit of a reputation though. It's a bit worrying.
Oh, I know, it's ridiculous. Okay, so I've been given the thumbs up that we should get going because most people seem to have joined now. So good morning to you all again. Thank you very much for joining us on our Insights webinar this morning, where I'm very pleased to be joined by Michelle Pollard from Spider. As we've said before, we're hosting these Insights webinars because we're really keen to bring you views, comments, experiences from others in business locally, and really to share expertise on how they've dealt with things, and just, you know, if there's any learning points we can all take forward. A little bit of housekeeping is just going to come up on the screen there. You are on mute for the duration of this webinar. But please enter any questions into the question box, and we will have a short session at the end where we will pick any of those up. So if you could enter those as we go along, I'll pick those up towards the end. And a recording of this webinar will be available afterwards on our website, and the address there is on your screen. So with no further ado, let's get on with chatting, Michelle, because we know there'll be a lot to get through and we can chat. So again, welcome to Michelle Pollard, Managing Director of Spider. Michelle, hello, how are you today?
I am good, thank you.
Good.
Excited to be here. Excellent,
thank you so much for joining us. So first of all, can you just explain to me a bit about your business and your role in the business?
Okay, I own a business called Spider. So we're the region's online job advertising company. We started our world kind of from my kitchen table 7 years ago, and now we have offices up at Ransom's Euro, operating right across the country now and helping companies with online recruitment advertising. But we also recently acquired a business called Polka.frog too.
You did. So we'll come to that because, you know, that's fascinating. So you said that you're online, so your business, your existing part of the business was online. So I guess you were better positioned than some going into the pandemic in terms of having to change how we operate. How did you cope as a business?
Oh, I don't think we'd ever want to go through it again. No. Yes, we did have an online offering, so I suppose we knew we could find a way through it, but it was just knowing how to find that way through it initially, because goodness, it was awful, wasn't it? You know, 1 minute we're all trading quite successfully, and then the next minute the rug is pulled out from underneath you. So how did we cope? We'd always been able to move our business quite quickly home, so remote working, that was always quite easy for us to do. We had VoIP phones, we had all the practicalities of moving a business home was no problem. With regards to the mental part of moving people home, that was probably more challenging, and I know we'll go into that in more detail. I mean, that was quite difficult for all of us because we're all human beings, aren't we?
Absolutely.
But one of the biggest things I think we did from the get-go was we sat, and I can remember sitting in my office before we were sent home, saying to my guys, right, where are we going to see our clients? You know, where are we going to get our business from? Who's going to be trading through this time and needing to hire? And I can remember one of my colleagues pulling out a box full of HGV application forms and saying everyone's going to be needing drivers. I mean, we didn't go down that route, but actually we did brainstorm, and we did say, which markets and which sectors will be less affected. One of the things I think we did quite well as well, Becky, was we made sure that all of our current customers were looked after. So we pushed, I mean, we were owed a lot of money at the time of lockdown 1, but I made sure that the companies that I knew were going to be in a more challenging position, they had more flexibility from us, more support with finances. We just made sure that we were very accommodating wherever possible to support some of our, you know, their household names that we work with in this county, and they're people that we love to do business with. So we tried to make sure that we looked after everybody on the journey. So you've got a lot to juggle, haven't you? Your suppliers, your clients, and also, you know, your team. And if your team are not feeling robust, then that's a very, very difficult place to be. They need to be feeling robust and in your gang.
Yeah, definitely. I think communication we found really early on was so important on so many levels, wasn't it? We always say make sure you're talking to your bank and your solicitor and your advisors, certainly, and HMRC, but it was talking to your customers and obviously your team, but just really engaging with people to make sure that they knew you were still there. And, you know, even if you couldn't help them now, you would in the future, I guess. So I know that it was a really exciting time for you in a lot of ways just prior to the pandemic, because you were looking at another opportunity, weren't you? So do you want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, that was crazy timing. So we acquired the assets to a business called Polka Dot Frog, and it had been all on the lowdown through January and February whilst we were teeing everything up. Polka Dot Frog were an awesome brand who are very well known in the region for being a recruitment agency, which is quite complementary to my online job advertising service. But they were very well known. They'd found themselves in some difficult situations, and sadly they liquidated. And I got wind of that and was super excited that perhaps we could do something to resurrect the brand, because it was the brand and a couple of the team that I had always been really, really impressed with. So we dotted the I's and crossed the T's, and we purchased the assets, and I was very lucky, thrilled, proud to have secured the services of one of their, in my view, one of their best teamies. And then the pandemic kicked in, and it was, oh my goodness, you know, this is such shocking timing of all the times. So where I'd been feeling quietly smug, it was like, well, what am I going to do? But there were several people who had said to me at the time, you're mad to go through with that. But I couldn't not go through with it. I'd made a promise. I'd made all the plans. I believed in the plans. I knew the pandemic wouldn't last forever. And there was no way I was going back on my word. So yeah, I had to push ahead with that. And obviously, Emma Cotton, who joined me in March, we couldn't furlough. We almost had to roll up our sleeves, myself and my colleague Gail Shemin and Emma. We rolled up our sleeves and said, if we're going to have to furlough some of our guys who are also awesome, what can we do to make sure they've got a business to come back to? So so we all rolled up our sleeves and did what we had to do to be here today.
I know, and I know you said to me, fortune favours the brave, and that you've had some pretty tough times, you know, as many people have through business in the past. And I think that resilience really helped you think, do you know what, I can do this, didn't it? You really did, literally, like you say, roll your sleeves up and get on with it.
And I think, you know, as much as I can say I can do this, I think it was more that we can do this. And I kept saying to the guys, come on, got to keep the faith. This is going to change. It will change. We just got to keep the faith. We just got to keep banging the drum. We've got to keep pushing out, be visible. But it was a challenge. But somebody said to me the other day, would you do it again? In a heartbeat. I don't have any decisions that I made in business in the last 12 months that I regret at all. I would do it all over again in the same scenario, in the same way, because we're coming out of this situation, and I'm so proud of what we've done. And I'm so proud of what the guys achieved. And actually, if we talked, you know, revenue and what we're generating, we've had some of the best months that we've had since we opened our doors. And that's because I think, you know, we talk a lot, Becky, about having the right people on the bus, and our business coach also tells us a lot, and we talk a lot about that, but that is so, so true. I think everybody who is in my room, they are in my room. We are part of the same gang. We like each other. We gel with each other. We're a quirky bunch. But yeah, the team that we have now is probably the team that I know moving forward will take us on to much greater things. So yeah.
I think, and we were saying earlier, you really see what people are made of in these situations, don't you? And all the investment that you've made over the years in building that team came through, and the goodwill and everything. And I think it's just makes you stronger to move forward, is what we were saying, wasn't it? For all of us, it's just been such a period of uncertainty, with things just changing constantly, and still, you know, we're living with that as well. How did that affect you and your team as individuals, as people, rather than just as a business?
Oh, I think it's been mentally challenging, isn't it? And I don't know that there's a business owner or a manager out there who's got it right all the time.
No.
One of the things I think I've learned the most, I mean, communicate is key. But one of the things that I've learned the most, and one of the things that I constantly remind myself of before I do a Zoom call, before I walk into the office, before I make a call, is I always try to check how I'm going to turn up. And again, having been through business coaching, they talk about that a lot. And I think that's a really big lesson that I've learned. How I turn up affects how my whole team feels. And sometimes I've done it shockingly bad. Other times I've done it really well. But I now acknowledge when I've done it badly, and I'm cross with myself when I do it badly. You know, I can give you an example. Last week we did a team call, and I think everybody was feeling the strain last week because it's been a long ride, isn't it? And this lockdown has been really tough. And I turned up to a Zoom call, and I was upbeat and positive in the way that I normally am, but my guys were feeling challenged. And I kind of thought, how I turn up, I reacted in a way that was, guys, I also need motivating sometimes, and try and give me something back. So I think that's been good for us, though, because we're now in a position where we can talk to each other and say, I'm having a pretty shocking time at the moment. I'm going to have to shoot for an hour, or I'm dipping out, and I accept that also my guys will have days like that. You know, if they're selling homes or trying to buy houses or whatever, we're all going to have challenges that as a team you should support and accept that people have lives. And wow, it's so insular now, isn't it? Because it's so intense with everything that's going on.
Absolutely. And I think the stuff that would happen in life normally is another layer on top of everything that we're already going through. So the stuff that people would probably manage reasonably well in normal circumstances, this just isn't that, is it? So I think we have to take that into account. And I absolutely agree. As leaders, we've got to turn up, bring our best selves to work. We set the tone, don't we? We set the drumbeat. Somehow we need to balance that with our teams also seeing our vulnerability as well, but we can't let it overwhelm the general, you know, culture, ethos, values that we bring to the team. So it's I think it's great to hear that you sometimes we don't get it right,
sometimes,
but most of the time.
I think being open and knowing that sometimes you get it wrong is really important, because we don't always get it right. I mean, I think, you know, we get it right a lot of the time, but we don't always get it right. And I think it's accepting that, acknowledging it, and saying, right, how do I get better next time? But then I find that a lot with companies that go on to do great things. They are constantly asking themselves, how do I do better next time? Or how do we do better next time? Or what could I do differently next time?
Constant improvement, so important, isn't it?
Yeah,
and a lot of this is down to the culture that you've built over several years with the team, which we know that's really important, and we're saying it's been harder, hasn't it, to maintain that remotely, but we've had to do it, and that's what we've done. What advice would you have for anyone bringing new employees into a business who perhaps are still having to work remotely but somehow need to embed that culture, really engage them, bring them into the team, and get them on board with how we do things around here, if you like?
Yeah. I think it has to start right at the very beginning when you're recruiting people.
Yeah.
We've watched companies cut some corners, and that's not necessarily going to be good for your culture and creating what your vision looks like and allowing them to look into your business. So my first thing would be, don't cut corners just because you're having to do a telephone screening, or doing just because you're going to have to do a Zoom interview or things. Don't make it casual. Make sure you are still working in a corporate way, and make sure that your candidates, even at that early stage, know that it's kind of, this is a formal interview. It might be on Zoom, but it's a formal interview. Today, Becky, we've turned up and we've got a jacket on and we've got a shirt on, and we haven't got a big pile of washing.
Up, isn't it?
It's keeping your standards. So I think even in the early days, when you're interviewing, when you're recruiting, make sure that you don't cut corners. And I think my biggest thing is, how do you want to turn up to a place of work during a pandemic and you're going to be working remotely? So what's important to you? Because if it's important to you, it's going to be really important to your next hire. So think about the things that you would want to have. If you're due to be starting work on Monday, but nobody's called you the week before with reference to your computer or your setup, or how's your broadband, or, we're going to do a team welcome call, because we want you to see everyone's faces, or all of those things should be done. Doesn't matter whether you're a one-man or a 5-person business or a 500-person business. How would you want to turn up to a business on your first day? Because that's gonna be very telling on how organized you are, how engaged you are with your employees, what process you have. It's all really, really important. I mean, we have a team WhatsApp chat. We try and keep it quite light. We do weekly team Zoom calls. I encourage the guys to talk to each other. We've got stuff in the diary that we're planning for. All of those things are really, really important. So again, it goes back to that communicate, doesn't it? And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And what would you expect?
Yeah, and I think we often say that, don't we? Put yourself in your client's shoes, but also put yourself in your team's shoes. Exactly the same thing. How would you want to be treated? And I guess be clear on expectations as well is important, isn't it? Don't, like you say, don't let those standards drop simply because you're not working in the usual way that you would be with people around you physically.
Completely agree.
Really keen. And so in terms of how we move forward and what you're seeing in the recruitment market, how is it looking now?
So, and I'm going to go like this. Things personally for us are looking very brisk, and the market looks very buoyant. There might be some people who are saying it's pent-up demand. I don't think it is, because I think the sectors that we're operating in have been quite buoyant of late, and I think moving forward it's going to be a pretty good place to be. I think what we watched over the last 12 months was certain sectors who became pandemic proof, I suppose. So you had, the care industry, the logistics industry. I mean, IT were rushed off their feet. If you ran a good digital marketing company, once the shock of everything, now you should be in a pretty good position. So I think there's certain markets that will still continue to be quite buoyant. I think if we talked about the world of work and what does that look like in the future, had you said to me after the first lockdown, what do you think will happen? I would have said, don't know, maybe I'm going to hand the keys back to my office because maybe we'll all go working from home. I don't think that's going to be the case at all, because we're talking to clients and candidates. People want a degree of flexibility. So as part of your employer offering, you should be able to offer that. But people want to get back into the office. And I think the companies that will win the war for talent, excuse the corny 80s expression, but the companies who win that war will be the ones who say, what's important to you, Mr. Candidate? What do you want from a business? And I think flexibility, remote working, yes, it's going to be here to stay, but my honest view is there's no way that that's going to take over what we all want from our places of work. And you know, we're human beings. We're wired to be part of a tribe, and that's going to be really key moving forward. We want to be with people. So that's my kind of prediction.
I love that, wired to be part of the tribe. That's a really good way of putting it. It is, isn't it? We're social animals. So, you know, I think some people have certainly seen the benefit of working remotely in lots of different ways. But exactly what you say, I think they will want a balance. They will like the flexibility. You know, if you've got a big project on, getting away and being able to work, you know, focus, etc., sometimes helps. But absolutely, I just miss people. Just want people around. You don't need to throw ideas around, and the support, the banter, the whatever, you know, the scenario is, not just in offices but in all scenarios. So we're not at the end of this yet, and clearly some businesses are facing still very tough times. Hopefully we can see a way out, but as Boris has told us this week. But what would be your key learning points from where we were to where we've got to today?
Oh, my key learning points. So I would say one of the things that we've done quite well is we've been really, really, really visible. We've been very visible on social media. We've been very visible on the telephone. We've just been visible. I mean, I would say if you're in the Suffolk region and you haven't seen Spider in some way, or Polka Dot Frog, I would be, you know, slightly surprised, because we have been very, very out there. We wanted to keep telling a story, Becky, so we're always looking for a reason to promote our clients and our business, and the fact that we're still here. I mean, at one time we even had hashtag still here, because we need people to know that we're still around. You know, we're a sales business. As well as great recruiters and brilliant online job advertising, we're a sales business. We have to be talking to companies. And you know, somebody said to me quite early on in the pandemic, now is not the time to sell. I completely disagree with that. I think now is completely the time to sell, and the companies who are selling are the ones who are surviving, and they'll go on to thrive. So key learning point: be visible, be active, look for reasons to promote your business in any way, in every way. I mean, we did a Choose Me Tuesday with Polka Dot Frog because we wanted to highlight that there were some candidates who would fall through the gaps, and they might not be able to secure opportunities in the normal world or the normal way. So we did a free Choose Me Tuesday where we videoed a candidate telling us and telling our audience exactly why you should choose them to find a job. And then we pushed that out. We didn't charge a fee to that to any of our clients. That was purely to help support our local community. So it was a story again to tell. And it was a reason to talk to our market and to our audience. So I think another key learning is take your team on the journey, because there's been times when my team has propped me up. Without them, there's been times when I've been thinking, oh my goodness, I don't even know why I'm doing this anymore. But take your team on the journey, because if you take them with you, well, one, it's not so lonely, and two, they're part of something. They're part of your vision, aren't they? So that's been massively, even more so than normal, a key learning for me. And I suppose my third one is be optimistic about the future, because this is a moment in time and we know it's not going to last forever. So I'm trying to make sure that we plan for growth and we plan so that, you know, we're now starting to hopefully ease out of this, and we're not out of the wood at all, but I want to make sure that when we're all ready to move forward, and businesses are ready to move forward, we're ready and waiting for them. So I think, yeah, know that this is just a moment in time, I would say as well.
I mean, it feels like a long moment, doesn't it? But it is, isn't it? In the great scheme of things, we will look back on this, as we all keep saying. And, you know, when we were chatting before, you said it's important to understand what motivates you. So I think, you know, that's what makes you get out of bed in the morning, isn't it? And I think people running businesses really need to keep that at the forefront of their mind. Why you do this, the why is so important, because I know that you've struggled before, many people have, but you've got through that. We can get through this, and it's understanding that you can do this, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. So I suppose, you know, the resilience, I think that's absolutely key, isn't it? I do wonder, moving forward, one of the top interview questions will be, and this is a prediction, you know, how did you spend, you know, what did you do during the pandemic, or how did you spend the pandemic? And I think a lot of companies, rightly or wrongly, will use that to work out what type of person they're actually hiring. So there'll be some of us who will say, oh yes, well, I drank lots of gin. There'll be others who will say, oh yes, I don't know what you mean. There'll be others who will very much be able to give a very compelling reason why they've got the resilience that you need in your business. So but it is this, we're on the way out now, aren't we? And it has been a really long road. I never want to go through it again, ever. But we've got a war story. You know, we've all got, you know, any business that has made it through these 12 months. Wow, you know, that's something to tell your grandkids, isn't it? You know, because we've made it through, and this is a historical time, isn't it? And we're still
absolutely
here.
Yeah, and I say that to my teenage daughter, you know, you'll be telling your kids about this, but I think we need to give ourselves credit that we have done as well as we have through this, both personally and in our businesses, because it has been tough, hasn't it? So sometimes you have to give yourself, you have to sit back and go, actually, and that's true of all achievements in life, isn't it? I think sometimes we don't recognise what we've done, but you know, that's just busy people trying to keep moving forwards, I guess.
But you know, we're talking about moving forwards as well, and I know we're kind of coming to a close, but one of the things I think a lot of businesses maybe haven't done or have done, we've done it, and I've done it with my team, is sometimes you do have to put a little bit of pressure on to ensure that we're driving the goal, and the goal is we all want to have a business. You know, in 12 months time, we all want to be in this business. So for us to be in this business, here are the goals that we need to achieve. And again, I'll never apologize for that, even though I would say some of my guys might have looked at me and gone, I don't want to go towards a goal at the moment because it's tough. I will always try and stretch towards a goal, because that's what's going to get us through to tell our story.
And you've got to drive that, haven't you? It comes back to the bus scenario again. You know, come on guys, we're on this bus, we're going, I'm going to set the route, we're going to know where we're going. So I think that's so important. So you've answered all the questions that we've had. Do you think the way we work has changed forever? We've talked around that. We think, you know, flexibility going forwards. What's changed in the recruitment market? We've talked through that from various angles. One final question for you: can you help with the interviewing and onboarding process when recruiting? Is that something that Spider and/or Polka Dot Frog can help with?
Spider is an online job advertising company, so it's kind of a different beast. With Polka Dot Frog, or any recruitment company that you would all dare to use other than Polka Dot Frog, but with Polka Dot Frog, they would very much want to understand your culture and your values, because it's really important to get the right fit. So absolutely. And if you're working with any recruitment company, it has to be more than just sending them a job spec. You know, you've got to have a two-way conversation with them. You've got to be able to partner with your recruitment company of choice, because they are your gateway to fantastic candidates. So absolutely, we can help.
Yeah, and again, I think whilst we would hope that that's always been the case in terms of taking those things into account, again, this has just shown us that it's so important, isn't it? It has to, you know, move up the list in terms of priorities and making sure that those values and the culture are being really, that you're really searching for those elements right at that initial stage of getting someone to join your team. So
Yeah,
thank you so much. It's been brilliant.
thank you.
I knew we would have fun and there'd be so much to talk about. Thank you, Michelle. And I
Thank
think
you
we've
for
got
inviting
some
me.
great insights there that other business leaders and owners will be able to resonate with, and you know, sort of go, yeah, I get it. That's me. That's how I'm feeling, and I'm not the only one feeling that way. Or actually, yeah, maybe that's the language I could use with my team. So thank you
Well, thank
so
you for
much.
inviting me.
You're welcome. So just up on your screens there is where you can go for more information. So as I said, this webinar has been recorded, and you can also find podcasts, blogs and other webinars available on our website. And just look out for future events from us, really. We've all had to change how we do these things, so there will still be more of these coming. We really enjoy doing them. I hope you find some benefit from them as well. Just keep an eye on our socials and things like that, and you'll see what's available. But thank you very much for your time this morning, and I hope you all have a good day.
Bye.